The chickens are coming home to roost for the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm. The Lucasfilm officially announced that they are shuttering their Lucasfilm Animation Singapore and claiming that the decision was made in response to, quote, economic factors affecting the industry. In a further blow to Disney's already shaky operating health, Lucasfilm's Industrial Light and Magic has announced that, quote, due to economic factors affecting the industry, the company will be officially closing the doors on Lucasfilm Animation's Singapore branch. Coming 20 years after the branch was opened, this decision was first confirmed on August 15th, courtesy of the House of Mouse themselves. In a statement sent to Variety on August 15th, a Disney spokesman explained that over the next several months, ILM will be consolidating its global footprint and winding down its Singapore studio due to economic factors affecting the industry. You want to know what those economic factors are? It's that they've stuck Star Wars on Disney Plus. It is no longer a theatrical franchise. It now sits on Disney Plus. It is straight to DVD, straight to home video. It has been a franchise that has been significantly reduced in quality from what it once was. It used to be one of the biggest brands out there. It was a American cultural icon. No longer. They insulted their fans. They hired people like Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams that disrespected the source material, actively hate people that watch the movies to make these films. That message was very clear in the movies. They had no understanding of what actual Star Wars is. They disrespected the actual canon. They completely erased Star Wars expanded universe history in place of what they wanted to do for their own vision. Then they claimed they didn't have any comics, books or novels, etc., source material to like go back on for inspiration, and then they continually ape things from those comic books, novels, and other source material to include into their window dressing to try and get those expanded universe fans in there to be like, hey, look, we have this shiny thing that you liked before. Don't you want to watch our new story, even though we are dumping on all the shiny things you previously liked? So that's kind of what they've done. I mean, you've got people out there constantly insulting the fans. Again, Rian Johnson is the biggest example, but you've got people like Pablo Hidalgo. You've got people like Matt Martin that are part of the story group. You've got the whole, like, them hating on Luke Skywalker. People in the offices drawing giant red X's across Luke Skywalker. His entire expanded universe stories being replaced by female characters such as Ahsoka and Rey. They have no one to blame but themselves. They created these economic factors. They're the ones who reduced the value of Star Wars through the absolute garbage stories that they were creating. And now they're having to pay the price by losing their jobs and having an entire animation studio shut down. Given the massive blow Lucasfilm Animation Singapore's closure will deliver to the eponymous nation's economy, particularly as they work towards becoming a global entertainment production powerhouse themselves, the Singapore government was unsurprisingly disappointed in the move. In a joint statement, the government's Economic Development Board and Infocom Media Development Authority lamented how, quote, Lucasfilm's decision to wind down its Singapore operations is in response to changes in the industry and business conditions. The global media industry is facing disruption from rapid technological advancements, while studios are coping with challenges relating to talent and profitability. And there you have it. Singapore not afraid to put the blame on the Walt Disney Company, saying that they have not been able to be profitable when it comes to Star Wars. It is sitting on Disney Plus now. They're spending buku amounts of money on shows that do not bring in enough subscribers. In fact, when The Mandalorian Season 3 was released, a show that, according to one of the series' star, Katie Sackhoff, spends more money on the catering budget than did on the entire Battlestar Galactica show. They were losing subscribers on Disney Plus when that first show aired. Like, they lost 300,000 subscribers in the second quarter, and then they lost another 300,000 subscribers domestically in the third quarter, according to their most recent earnings reports. That is when The Mandalorian was indeed airing on Disney Plus. So they were actually losing subscribers when their flagship Disney Plus show was airing. So I think that shows you that the profitability is a massive problem over there because their costs are so high, and the fact that they are not actually getting people to subscribe. And you even have Bob Iger admitting this You can point to Willow had there's a new report in Forbes, I think around $106 million that it cost them, and I guess that was only like a certain production. It doesn't include like posts and everything like that. So the costs for that show were even higher. They've already removed it from the Disney Plus platform as part of their nearly $2 billion. I think it's around $2 billion. I know in Q2 they said it was going to be like around $1.8 to $2 billion tax write-off, because they view that as basically worth nothing because no one was actually watching the show. It was an utter disaster for Lucasfilm and the Walt Disney Company. But again, it's not just Willow. You also have to point to Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I just don't think the viewership for what they were spending was there. They just weren't getting the subscription dollars, and they clearly didn't even have their like ad plan rolled out. So they weren't even having ads running for this, because it was just purely a subscription model without the ad tier on there. So I think that is not there. And then obviously you can point to the theatrical releases, significant declines. Since The Force Awakens, that did over $2 billion. I think globally, you had Last Jedi decline to like 1.5 or something like that, and then Rise of Skywalker just barely did $1 billion. Huge declines over the course of 3 movies, and then in between that, you also had Solo: A Star Wars Story, which actually lost money. Clear that the fans had no interest in seeing what was actually going on outside of the Disney sequel trilogy. And I think people only watched The Rise of Skywalker just to see how they would end it, how they would try and figure that out. But I think the fact that Solo actually lost money, it points to this problem that Star Wars has, that they are not profitable anymore and they're struggling. Toy sales are probably down as well. Merchandising across the board is probably down. And then as far as talent, well, when you're making crappy movies, but with people like Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams, and you've got absolutely garbage television shows being created, such as Deborah Chow's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian, that constantly contradicts whatever they're doing. It's leading into the sequel trilogy stuff. You've got the failure of the Galactic Star Cruiser in the parks. I mean, there's so many things that are adding up. Like, so you got even Imagineers that are having. There's clearly a massive talent gap. People that don't understand what made Star Wars a success in the first place. They don't have any respect for Star Wars. You have Dave Filoni here who says that he can't. He's like, canon doesn't really matter. It's all about telling a good story. Well, you're not even telling a good story because you can't even stay true to what the characters are, and you're supplanting the stories that were already told that were good, featuring Luke Skywalker with your pet projects like Ahsoka. So there is a massive talent problem over at Star Wars. And the Singapore government was not afraid to call them out. And they've done this to themselves. Star Wars has done this to themselves. And the chickens have come home to roost now. So that is what is going on with Star Wars. This is the first major blow at Lucasfilm, and I think this is just the first of many of the dominoes that are to fall. I think there's going to be a lot more lined up, and Star Wars and the Walt Disney Company have put themselves into this position themselves, and they're now having to pay the piper.
Subscribe for more.